Let's rejoicify the fact that Kahleah motherfreaking Copper plays basketball today, and we're back on your screen. We've got all that plus Unrivaled talk coming to you in 30 seconds. Coming to you live from Studio K, brought to you by our friends over at Circle K. I am your host, Erika Day, joining you for the very first time in this Merry New Year with my esteemed QB1 MVP on and off the court, Stephen Brittney Griner. Welcome back to the PHNX Mercury podcast. We've got Shane Diefenbach behind the Mac. We'll let him make that noise, but he's still a T-Mac denier. We are all super excited to be back in studio with you guys today. And Stephen, it's your first New Year in the Valley. How you been? How you liking it?
Well, it's so much warmer that everything just feels better. And I have nothing to complain about with that alone.
Yeah, Stephen had to laugh at me this morning because I literally walked in shivering. It is 65 degrees outside.
It wasn't just you. I saw a lot of people on my way here. They were bundled up as if it was 9 degrees, which is what it's like back home in Chicago. And that part I get it because you're used to it here, but as someone that's been through it and been through it for over 29 years now,
okay, I will say though, shorts in 44 degree weather is crazy.
It really is.
Like, that's cold.
it's not 44 degrees.
It's 44 degrees at 8 a.m.
It's not 8 a.m. right now.
Oh, I know, but you're wearing shorts, so I would assume you left your house.
I didn't get here until about 11 something. So
okay.
Yes,
okay.
At 8 a.m. It does get cool here.
Okay.
I will definitely agree with
cool.
that.
He's cool.
You can't get cold off of 44. I'm sorry.
We've got a little wind breeze, and I'm over here shivering. Steven is like, I don't need any jacket for that. And meanwhile, half of Arizona is wearing parkas.
Yes, that's all I saw on the way here. Parkas and big coats.
Beanies and
the sun is shining. Like, there's no clouds in the sky. I'm so confused, but we here.
See, like Amanda said in the comments, I lived in Minnesota for 18 years, and now I think 60 is cold. See, your blood gets thinner the longer you live here.
Respect to Amanda in Minnesota, but that's still not Chicago. Y'all don't have that big old lake that's right next to y'all and that lake effect wind and everything that comes with that.
Well, huge shouts to all of y'all in the comments, whether you're from Minnesota, Tucson, my friends down south, or up here in the Valley. Shout out to all of you guys for joining us. It's been a while, so I'm glad we can still count on you guys to be live and in the comments. Make sure you leave us a thumbs up.
Wait, do you see Andy's comment?
Exactly, though.
No, I can't even let y'all get away with that.
It's freezing.
That's insane. 60 degrees.
No, I'm
Siberia.
sorry. But if you got 60 degrees and a wind chill, I'm sorry, but it's suddenly freezing outside.
That can't even be considered a wind chill. It's like the same temperature as it is outside.
Oh, my God.
I can't get on board with 60 degrees being freezing.
No.
60 degrees, like, when I'm outside, I'll be a little cold, but I'm not freezing.
Yeah.
Like if the wind's hitting me right, I'm like, okay, I'm a little cold.
Mm-hmm.
I need to go inside. But 60 degrees is not freezing. When it gets down to 50, now I'm a little cold.
Yeah.
I just want to say I was outside wandering, looking for my Uber Eats driver, and it was 65 degrees outside right now. And I'm not going to say I was cold, but I was definitely not warm. And so I just won't take this cold
Before we
slander.
get into basketball talk, what's your guys' temperature range of, like, comfortability? Because I'm between, like, 63 and 78 is, like, perfect. Like,
I would also like to know what you keep your thermostat at home.
Well, right now it's
what the
not
preference
on.
is.
Yeah, that mine isn't on right now.
Yeah.
That's been a big blessing.
No heat or?
No, nothing.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's very comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay, well, my preferred temperature regardless is 68 degrees. Like, I'm trying to be
68?
cold while I sleep. I want to shiver. But outside of that, during the summer, I'm trying to boil in the sun. 98 degrees or bust.
I think anything that's above like 55 for me is just like super, super comfortable.
This is a baller out here.
55 to what? When do you get too hot?
55 to, well, hot out here and hot in Chicago is different. The humidity, changes everything. So I would say like 98 out here.
You're comfortable in 97-degree weather?
Yeah, I am. I'm a June baby, so I got to be comfortable in the time I was born.
Hell no. Hell no.
Well, I know you've come for the basketball, but you've stayed for the temperature. I guess we can finally get to some actual basketball-related discussion. Stephen, the Phoenix Mercury really blessed us, and I'm going to just say it because I was getting real worried in the first half of this week. I'm like, all right, I've seen all these teams give out their offers, and our free agents are just kind of sitting out there waiting. And, you know, as you may know, I have a couple of priority free agents that were eligible for these offers this week. And so to say that I was getting anxious would be an understatement. And yesterday, the Phoenix Mercury finally delivered and offered some contracts. We'll start with the one that's already been accepted. Lindsay Bartlett says it in the comments. Mack Truck, beep, beep. Friend of the show, Natasha Mack, has received her training camp offer from the Phoenix Mercury. And she's signed it already. Now, this is a $66,087 contract that will only apply to the salary cap if she makes it to the very first game suited up for the Mercury. So it could just be a training camp contract, but it could also carry on into the full season, which is obviously what I am hoping for.
I think Natasha, for everything that's come to her the last handful of months, she's earned it. And I think that past just earning it in her actual play on the court and presence at practice, I think her presence in the locker room is something that everybody values as well. And because of those things, she's going to continue to have things that come back to her from the basketball universe. Like, she tweeted the other day, she's still getting to learn and understand the WNBA.
I ain't even gonna lie, that tweet had me so worried. I sent it to my good friend David, and I'm like, what's going on?
But they're going to look out for her just because of how well she performed in place of BG when BG had the early season injury, and just, again, her presence in the locker room for the vibes, which they value so highly.
Yeah, when you're a good teammate, it goes so much further than I think a lot of people realize, you know, and you're just willing to do the right thing for everybody else in the locker room. I'm giggling at Melissa's comment.
Melissa and Chris, y'all better stop it. Knock it all the way off.
This is so good. Quality, top-notch content. This is what you guys have been waiting for since the new year. I know it. But they did send out some other offers outside of Natasha Mack, including but not limited to Celeste Taylor, who we've talked at length about what a value she is on the bench for this team. I think, you know, just her learning behind someone like Natasha Cloud is so beneficial for her at this young stage of her career. She's having a really good season overseas for the Sydney Flames. They're playing the crap out of her, and she's getting some really good time. So I'm hoping that when she comes back for this training camp contract, we get to see a lot of the fruits of those labors. As well as Kiki Herbert-Harrigan, who David and I always talk about. David Beanshaw, I know you're in the chat. Yes, give it up for the Celestials. But Kiki Herbert-Harrigan is playing her A off overseas. Okay, they are playing her 38 minutes a game, and they are getting every cent worth of Kiki Herbert-Harrigan. And so again, I hope it's something we kind of see the fruits of those labors. And then the last, but certainly not least, Amy Atwell, someone the Phoenix Mercury bought on kind of late in the season last year, but will probably end up getting brought back on. Same thing with Natasha Mack with these other offers where these are training camp contracts. So the Mercury does not necessarily have to bring them back, but it definitely opens the door for both options for both parties involved.
Yeah, this is the heavy transaction portion of the schedule for the W, especially ahead of free agency starting in early February. So be on the lookout for more news from the Mercury and other teams. And I think that with them having so many young players that were on their roster last season, some of them in case of emergency from injury, some of them stemming from contract deals and brought in between there, they're in a situation where if they do a great job with free agency, they'll have more veterans for these players to learn and kind of grow under within their system. And I think that's something that's important for a team that hasn't had the craziest plethora of draft picks the last handful of seasons, to find young pieces that they can invest in internally and develop, obviously under their best players.
I'm giggling that Chris only talks to Melissa in the PHNX Mercury chat. I guess we're going to have a few more shows then so that we can all get together more often. But yeah, it's been a pretty crazy offseason. I feel like for every team outside of Phoenix Mercury, truthfully, the Mercury's offseason has been a little bit chillax, which I actually think means for the next 2.5 weeks, we're going to be like sent into a tornado tizzy. So be on the lookout on the PHNX Mercury Twitter account for all of us to be dropping that news as it comes out to us. You'll be getting it there. And then hopefully we can get an emergency pod, level of excitement and news going for the Mercury.
Well, I think it's going to be a eventful free agency period for the Mercury. Obviously, the elephant in the room is still Diana Taurasi's decision on if she's going to continue to play going into season 2025 or if she's going to be done. And naturally, there's going to be a ripple effect with either decision that's made from her, as they'll have salary cap things they have to consider when talking to free agents and trying to build out their roster to contend this season. And on the other side, if she's not there, they have a void to fill in terms of shooting guard position or small forward position, however you want to look at it. And I think there's just a lot of decisions they'll have to make in a condensed window of time just because of free agency being so close and so many decisions needing to be kind of mapped out before they're actually putting ink to paper.
Yeah, and I think that there's so much of what the Mercury does during the free agency rides on if Diana is coming back or not. And so there's only so many decisions that Ishbia and Bartelstein can make until Diana obviously comes forward with that decision. And David brings up a awesome comment. I know a shooting guard in Seattle who wants to be traded. That was actually exactly our next point.
Did you put the show sheet on Twitter?
I swear I didn't. I swear
That's what it looked like the way the conversation is
they just know what's coming. They are in with the news just like we are. But yeah, Jewell Loyd and Stephen, probably one of the earliest conversations I had with Stephen was about Jewell Loyd and how much we both liked her and could see her in Phoenix. And so for us to be even having this conversation almost a year later seems rather insane and full circle. But that being said, like, the conversation has to be had at this point. Jewell has obviously asked for a trade. The last time we saw you guys, the news had kind of been speculated, but we didn't feel comfortable like bringing speculative information like that to the show. But now that it is out and, like I said, Jewell is kind of one for the taking, there are some things that the Phoenix Mercury could do to put together a trade package for Jewell that would really, really, really bring some value to Phoenix. That being said, again, I feel like a lot of that decision rides on if Diana is returning or not, though.
Yeah, because I'm not going to say it's impossible because great players make it work, and they were featured in lineups together in Olympics this past summer rather, and in years past. But it gets hard to put a roster together when you have two players like Jewell and Diana, as well as Kahleah, and also Brittney Griner. Like, that's a lot. Obviously, there's a lot of money.
Roster
that's a lot of money involved. Touches have to be, dispersed through and whatnot. It gets tough. So I think the likelihood of Jewell coming, if Diana is not returning, increases significantly in comparison to if Diana does stick around for another year. So again, it's very much stay tuned on that. But Jewell in a Phoenix Mercury jersey would be insane. You have Jewell with Kahleah Copper and Natasha Cloud and Brittney Griner. So imagine Jewell in place of Diana Taurasi. You still have multiple MVP caliber players. You still have multiple Olympian gold medalists. Like, that's
a team.
And that's going to be a player that's coming into next season hearing all of the things that have been said about her game, quote unquote, falling off. That's going to have a bigger chip on her shoulder than typical, in addition to her wanting to respond on the court to everything that made her want to leave Seattle in the first place. So you get Jewell, you get an inspired superstar. That's a scary proposition for a team that already has a style of dogs on their team as it is.
Well, and I personally think that we're going to be getting not a whole new version of the Mercury, but a whole new iteration where it's just where, last season we talked all season about Kahleah and Tosh being dogs. And I think we're going to have to spend a lot more time talking about the other 9 players on the team being dogs in order for this team to be as competitive as we see them to be. And so I think, like I said, just a whole new level of dog from this team is definitely necessary. And Jewell would bring that here.
Yeah. And I think another big thing with Jewell, For one, she earned the respect of Diana Taurasi very early in her career. For anybody that doesn't know, their connection is through the late great Kobe Bryant and him dubbing them both with nicknames stemming from his nickname being the ultimate Mamba, the Black Mamba. That connection alone and a passing of torch in a symbolic sense to go from Diana Taurasi to Jewell Loyd would be insane. It would be poetic in the sense in terms of the basketball and the whole Mamba group of players that he kind of passed the torch to in different respects. So, and then the other big thing with that, Jewell operates in all of the exact same context that Diana did at her peak, the exact same way, very, very well. And I think that's something that would make a natural integration for her into their team context, like as organic as it could be.
I agree. And I feel like a lot of the problems in Seattle stem from like just the timing of everything that happened with Stewie leaving and just Jewell not quite being at the point in her career where she wants to be that vocal leader in the locker room. And I think here in Phoenix, she wouldn't necessarily have to be that.
Mm-hmm.
When you have people with the likes of Natasha Cloud in your locker room, you don't have to be the vocal leader of the locker room and the best player on the court. And I think that is something really unique about Phoenix is because of the presence of Natasha Cloud, who isn't going to be the best shooter on the court on most nights, but is, again, the toughest player and the loudest in the locker room. You really don't need your best player to be the leader that Jewell has kind of had to grow into up in Seattle.
Yeah, and I think to that point as well, looking at her in the Mercury context, you got Kahleah Copper that's also a prolific scorer, top 5 scorer, however you want to rank him, and literally on points per game last season, she was that and was the best to go across multiple stretches. That takes a significant level of attention off of Jewell. And like if you have Kahleah on one side of the court, BG standing in the middle somewhere, and Jewell either has the ball in her hands or is on the other side of the court, where's the help coming from? Where can the defense be right?
Right.
You make this move, now someone else is getting an open shot, or at worst, they're playing off of a defense that's always rotating. And when the Mercury were getting teams in rotation last season, that's when they were at their best. That allows them to quadruple down in terms of that.
I think the thing that neither of us have talked about is also just, this team will have had an additional year to be together. That includes Ka and Tosh. And I think that those two in tandem are going to grow so much. And we'll get into, Unrivaled and how all of that plays into it. But just playing 3-on-3 and while not on the same team together, doing it in the similar, capacity and probably having similar roles on their team, like they're going to grow so much as players, in Miami this year and come back to Phoenix and be ready to implement those things that Nate, told them about before they left. And now he's coming back and they're ready to, go back to work and get to practice working on those things. And I think Nate's going to have this team looking like a much better version of what we saw last season.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to all of those kind of developments over this abbreviated inaugural Unrivaled season for the women in general, and also for their development. I feel like 3-on-3 can be a great kind of trampoline that sends them into the ultimate training camp to come around like late April, early May. And I think it's going to be something that's pivotal for everybody that's involved in terms of staying sharp past just training with trainers, occasionally working out with 1 or 2 other professional athletes, or having to go overseas. It just helps to make everything make more sense for their personal schedules. And I think the general level of basketball we're going to see from them stemming from it is going to be high.
Well, we've almost talked about everything, and I almost forgot about just a few little things here.
I got a question for the chat after that, and a question for you.
Oh, no, I want to know what your question is.
Oh, go ahead and talk about Satou.
Oh, see, I like the way Stephen knows. Hell yeah, I love this show. All right, Satou Sabally. If you haven't seen my Twitter as of recent, I've been on the Satou Sabally bandwagon for quite some time, ever since I saw her in an Oregon jersey. Yeah, it's really difficult to not be. But that said, Satou has stated, I think I've said it on the show multiple times now at this point, that she has played her last game in a Wings jersey, which for the Wings, really sorry. My good friend Audria down in Dallas, I'm so sorry. That said, for everybody else, woohoo! Let's party and let's duke it out for Satou Sabally.
It is open season.
Well, and I think, we just kind of talked about the training camp aspect of Unrivaled and how that's all going to play into the, positives of the WNBA, but also it is kind of like Tampa City down there right now. And it's, I think it's actually really good for the athletes because they really get to know, you know, their teammates. They can ask really unfiltered questions about the coaching staff. You know, when you're around the people that you play with that much, you're gonna spill beans on a lot. And so I think, you know, you're gonna see a lot of free agency moves that stemmed from conversations that were had in Unrivaled, and we're seeing it in real time with Satou Sabally, and it's kind of unfolding. And this will be the first, and I think the biggest example of this particular offseason. But I've got Shane Diefenbach ready to roll a clip of Tosh talking about getting Satou to Phoenix.
Sabrina Satou said that she has already informed Dallas that she's played her last game there and looking to play elsewhere. Are you trying to recruit her?
We both are. Don't just say Sabrina. Yeah. Okay. You got your nice little ring. Okay.
But I guess, like, what is that process like that with, you know, both of you having this opportunity here to talk to free agents, show them, you know, let them ask you questions about what your guys' organizations bring them and stuff?
I mean, I think mine's a little bit different because we played together in college, and, you know, I would say I'm trying to help and advise her regardless if she comes to New York or not. Like, I've know her family really well, know her really well, and, like, I want what's best for her. And so for me, it's just been kind of hearing what her goals and priorities are, trying to help, you know, be that kind of friend that she can talk to about the decision she makes. And I'm never going to push her one way or another, no matter how bad I want to play with her again. And so it's been fun hearing, though, you know, players trying to get certain players to join teams, and you're kind of just able to hear other people's experiences as well. Like, you know, I think Tosh kind of hit on it. You're surrounded by players usually you go up against, and you don't really get to know players on a kind of level that you are now. And so it's been cool to hear and get to know a lot of the players that, you know, we're all kind of in this together.
What's your pitch? Yeah. Honestly, I was gonna say the same thing. Obviously, this is the best place to be able to recruit free agents, but at the end of the day, like, I'm very much a person that's whatever is best for Satou moving forward. That's what I want for Satou moving forward. If that is Phoenix, I literally will tell her I will give up my apartment if she wants that. But for me, the human of Satou needs to be happy so that the player of Satou can really thrive and just reach her full potential on the court. And so it's a really cool dynamic. Obviously, like, there is. You can see when people are, like, huddled up and talking, and we'll be like, no, let me get in here, let me break it up. Like, but it's a good time. It's a good time. But yeah, we just want players to be where they're going to be appreciated, valued, and just kind of seen. Yeah.
She said she's gotten a couple free coffees out of this whole thing.
Listen, she's gonna get free coffee, free dinner, whatever she wants, honestly.
Oh.
Yeah, me though.
Yeah. That's the spot. That's the spot. Yeah, the best spot. The best spot.
Sorry, just have a question.
And, you know, just bringing what I can offer to the floor, I can offer Satou a free spot on a weekly podcast. And she can come on whenever she wants. And, you know, I just think it would be really good for her brand, you know? So I think at this point, the Valley is screaming her name. You know, Mr. Stephen joked with me about 3.5 months ago that I should DM Mr. Ishbia and tell him what a value that Satou was. And did I ever think that I would be seriously having this conversation with you guys? No, I did not. But here we are, and I think that my DM may have worked. And we do have a chance to have Satou here in Phoenix.
All you can ask for is a chance. You offer her a seat on the podcast. I'll offer her some exclusive merchandise with
whatever
her,
she needs.
with her on it.
Can we get branded bills, Shane, with like, okay.
Hey, I can hook her up with the Circle K card. Hey, listen, we got all the goods.
Hey, if Satou gets the Circle K card, I get the Circle K card.
We will make sure she is taken care of on the amenity side of things outside of the Mercury facilities and everything that the team has to offer.
Whatever she needs, okay, is our point here, okay? The Valley will take care of Satou as much as Satou will take care of the Valley, okay?
It's funny Melissa saying that Natasha Cloud is her BFF when they've literally had in-person exchanges before.
That's literally exactly how I feel.
I will leave that alone, but she knows exactly what I'm talking about.
I feel the same exact way, though. Like, I have looked her directly in the eyes, and she has no idea, but we are definitely best friends. Friend of the show.
She's everybody's friend.
Yes, rebrand PHNX as Satou for just a week.
I'm with it.
I feel like if that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do. And I'm sorry, but this would automatically turn this franchise into a astronomically winning franchise. You know, from the most winningest franchise in the Valley to now they could win this year. So, you know, take that for what it's worth. It could be worth our time to just scratch the service and change the company's name for just a short time.
Question for you.
I'm waiting.
And a question for the chat, so please respond to this with your answer. We can kind of maybe tally them up and see what the talk is talking about. But would you rather? And what do you think would be the most impactful for the Mercury? Jewell Loyd or Satou Sabally?
I'm taking Satou.
Chat, let us know what y'all think. I got Satou as well.
This Mercury struggled so badly from that 4 position last year.
Yeah.
It hurt. I mean, it physically caused pain, you know? And so, Chris. No, but I mean, physical pain was brought to my body based on what we saw at times from the 4 position last year. And that's not sitting here saying it was always terrible, but I think what's the value that Satou would bring would be irreplicable, and I'm not saying that Jewell is replaceable by someone else that would be available in this free agency, but I think with the volume scores we've already got on the team, I think we could make it work better with Satou versus with Jewell.
I think getting Satou would be effective if Diana stays or if Diana is not coming back. I think naturally you could slide Kahleah to the 2, and you could slide Beck Allen, who was shouldering the brunt of a lot of those 4 minutes when she was healthy, to the 3 where she's more natural at, and then she can play the 4 when Satou's not on the court and things like that. I think it just helps to create more roster balance for the Mercury, and I think that them getting more size and the versatility that Satou would bring will help them in matchups like with Minnesota and with Connecticut, depending on if they bring back Alyssa Thomas. Obviously, with teams like the
Sky, going on with Connecticut now?
I don't know, but Satou, that's
it's
not
a
bad.
mess, right?
They got some things that they need to figure out, and they got a handful of them. They might not be the same team coming in.
Not just the rec gym that they practice in, but every other issue under the sun as well, literally.
Yeah.
But anyways, I feel like we're forgetting some conversation we were supposed to have in this little free agency portion. Anything that you can think of?
That we're forgetting something?
In the free agency talk?
No, we touched on everything.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, then, right after this little short ad break, we're going to go on over and talk about the newest professional women's basketball league, Unrivaled. Oh, our friends over at Colt Cannabis. Oh my gosh, we're talking about our friends over at Trulieve and Colt Cannabis. If you haven't heard of Colt Cannabis, they're a pretty big deal down in Tucson, but also up here in the Valley. Our friends at Colt Cannabis are now available at your local Trulieve with a huge variety of premium flower. A Trulieve exclusive magic marker. Is this every day? But yep, okay. The Valley has been asking for her, and she's back. Visit Trulieve.com to find the local shop near you or place an order and tell them PHNX Erika sent ya. Great flower is hard to find these days, but luckily our friends at Colt Cannabis have been dropping absolute fire here at the PHNX studios and
Literally.
now at your local Trulieve. And that includes the Trulieve exclusive magic marker strain. Also, be sure to check out the new Trulieve location opening up in Maricopa earlier this month. Get over to Trulieve.com to find your local shop or place an order and tell them PHNX sent you. And right after you're done over, at Trulieve getting your freaking good Colt Cannabis, you can head over to Circle K at America's Thirst Stop. You can join the Inner Circle, get their free membership program, save 25 cents on your per gallon of gas for your first 5 fill-ups, and then 5 cents every time after that. As you can tell, it's been a little bit of a long time since I've read about Circle K. But that being said, you can get plenty of other member exclusive deals. Some of these good snacks you see like behind me, and best and cheapest gas in town. Steven, what are you eyeing back there?
The salt and vinegar chips.
Ooh.
But there's no bad snacks from Circle K.
What?
No bad snacks from Circle K.
Okay, yeah, you're right. But you might need some after you're done with our previous ad read. So head on over to Circle K. Join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Did y'all see the part where I really subtly paused before the ad? It was a total accident.
Everybody was looking at each other.
I just completely forgot that I was supposed to speak after that. So that was pretty tough. But anyways, we've hinted at it. Let's talk about it. Unrivaled. Listen, I've been looking forward to this. This was announced right out a year ago now.
Yeah.
And here we are. And the inaugural season starts this afternoon. I want to say it's 5 o'clock our time, 5 and 6 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, whatever time zone we're in. And our Mercury's very own Kahleah Copper plays on one of the very first games of the season of the league's life, and she plays tonight at 6 p.m. And Shane, actually, before we get into this, why don't you go ahead and throw up that graphic showing us all of the teams? Now, listen, Stephen, should we talk the people through the teams real quick?
We can, sure.
Okay. I'm going to start with the laces, and you're going with the Lunar Owls, okay?
Okay.
All right, on the laces, we've got Jackie Young, Tiffany Hayes, Kayla McBride, Alyssa Thomas, Kate Martin, and Big Mama Steph Dolson.
On the Owls, we got Nafisa Collier. We got Courtney Williams, Skylar Diggins-Smith. Is that
Alicia.
That's Big Al? My eyesight ain't that great. We got Big Al, and they got Shakira, and then we got the one and only Cam Brink.
And then on the Miss, the other founders team, you got Stewie herself, Dejanay Carrington, Courtney Vandersloot, Jewell Loyd, hopefully future Phoenix Mercury, Aaliyah Edwards, and Rakia Jackson.
And then for the Rose, we got Angel Reese, Chelsea Gray, Kahleah Copper, Brittney Sykes, Azuree Stevens, and Lexi Hall.
And then on my personal favorite team, we've got Satou Sabally, Marina Mabry, BG, Tosh Cloud, Katie Samuelson, and Sabrina Ionescu, plus a little bit of a hardship contract signed today by Natisha Heidemann, so we can include her on the Phantom as well.
And then on the final team for the vinyl, you got Big A, Arike Ogunbowale, Ray Burrell, Ryan Howard, Aaliyah Boston, De'Erica Hamby, and who's the last one right here?
Jordan Canada.
Jordan Canada.
Yeah, I agree, Mark. I absolutely agree that these teams are super, super balanced. I have to give the league one thing, and I think that they've done a really good job of not making it fair, because I do think there is some teams that are going to be just a skill level better than the others. But like, these are really, really good, fair, balanced teams.
Yeah, it feels like each team is very balanced.
They all have a superstar.
They never spoke on how the teams were constructed, did they?
Well, like in the draft video, it seemed as though they had already had all of that decided.
Yeah.
So to me, it just seemed like a scripted draft video, which almost irritated me. But you don't have to tell Nafisa and Stewie that if they ask.
For sure. It looks like one of those two was not necessarily cheating, but definitely used their ownership to the furthest of extent that it possibly could be. I'm going to let y'all figure that out based off of the rosters we just looked at, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think there's fun personalities with each roster past just the actual talents, and they've done a sensational job with the rollout of the players involved, and they've done an even better job showcasing the personalities through the different practice and interaction scenarios that they've had the camera in front of.
I would have to absolutely 100% agree with you. I guess I just said if I have to give the league one thing, but if I have to give the league another thing, they've done an absolutely impeccable job with the marketing. And I was kind of nervous at first because with the way that the league works with being 6 teams, I was kind of nervous that they were going to run all the socials through just the Unrivaled team. And it was just getting out of hand before everything actually got going. But now they've got all these separate accounts. Their content is flowing. I want to talk about Kahleah and Angel for a second. Stephen, our good friend, our Chicago native, he's been working with Kahleah a long time. And so we've seen a lot from Kahleah over the last 2 weeks, probably a lot more content than we're used to seeing of Kahleah. And I'm sure a lot of that is in part due to her younger, counterpart, Angel Reese, on her team with her. And I just kind of want to let you talk about what you see in that relationship and how it can benefit both of them.
Yeah, Kahleah is now in the stage of her career getting to the peak of her power, shall I say. I think over the next 2 years, we'll see her at her absolute prime. But she's like one of the middle children of the WNBA. She's not a young buck. She has a ton of experience, but she's also certainly not old. And she was quick to let everybody know that, including Angel, calling her grandma this and grandma that over the last handful of days. So I think it's a unique opportunity for her because obviously I think you've heard a lot of people like Courtney Williams be super transparent and saying what makes the league so different is you're kind of just meshing with all of these personalities that you would never have a chance to really spend time with because of their respective teams and travel and obviously being in direct competition with one another. So Kahleah being in this situation, especially with Angel, I feel like the natural connection, two dogs, a younger dog, a dog that's not as young but certainly isn't old. I think they see a lot of each other when they're speaking to each other, when they watch how each other wears their heart on their sleeves. And I think that naturally just made for a relationship that you clearly seeing as organic as it possibly can be.
For sure. I hope that means we continue with this Kahleah content the rest of the way because it's been really good and refreshing to see. No tear shade to the Mercury, but the Rose has been able to tap into a side of Kahleah that we really haven't gotten to see yet. This fun and like loud almost. I'm like, who is that? Can you bring her back to the Valley when you're done with her?
And no disrespect to the Mercury because I don't think it's a Mercury thing. I think it's a WNBA thing, but you see the personalities that each player is just willingly giving out. That is solely because of they feel so well taken care of. They feel so in detail thought of and how things are being presented to them and how everything's been laid out. I think you can get this in the W, but you have to go about it the right way. And they have a long ways to go, and this is a level of accountability in terms of a direct competitor that the W is going to be called to action for.
Well, and I think the one thing that Unrivaled does have on its side is that it is a shorter season. So while they do have all these amenities, they don't have to pay for them as long as, say, Matt Ishbia would have had to do for the Mercury.
Of course.
And so obviously it's a little bit of a different circumstance for these two very, very different leagues at their core. But, you know, like he just said, Unrivaled is doing a really, really good job. And we haven't even mentioned the fact that Unrivaled's max contract is almost $20,000 more than the WNBA's contract, and the WNBA has 20 years of existence on Unrivaled. So, I mean, that in itself says some serious good things about where Unrivaled is at as far as specifically finances.
Well, unfortunately, the bar was set low.
You're not wrong.
From the W. Like, let's just keep it a buck.
I keep laughing because everyone's like, well, why are y'all using Unrivaled as an excuse to take shots at the W? I'm like, wouldn't you? Like, why wouldn't we?
They didn't need an excuse to take shots at the W in the first place. And I don't think anybody that's been following the league felt like there was a need for another reason to give opportunity to take shots. The W's been doing it to themselves.
Right.
And until they start to address things and take things to the extent that we're seeing with Unrivaled, like the players aren't doing anything with Unrivaled that they don't feel like the W can't facilitate. That's what's led to so many disconnects and negotiations and players ultimately not choosing to go to certain franchises at times because of what other franchises might have that they don't. It's just a culmination of things over years that I'm trying to think, who was it on Twitter recently? Alicia Clark, a player that's been in the league for quite some time, seen a lot of changes, spoke to Unrivaled being so dope to see, though she's not participating because she feels like it's going to ultimately bring that accountability to the W for them to see, okay, the players are acting this way, the players are being treated this way. Maybe if we can not necessarily do it the same way, but do it in a way in respect to how we do business to make it all make sense and put the puzzle piece together.
Not to pat ourselves on the back here, but I think if you asked us back in July, I think we said just that on the show, and that this league was going to do just that and force Kathy's hand and raise the bar. And I mean, like Mark says in the comments, when the bar is so low, it's not that hard to raise the bar a little bit. So I think, you know, when you've got owners like Ishbia and you've got leagues like Unrivaled popping up, like you're going to see more investment into the sport. And when you invest more, you get more out of it. And you're seeing that in real time happen in Phoenix, and we're going to see it starting today with Unrivaled. So hopefully Kathy sees the fruits of these labors and does some labors of her own.
Yep. And I think that though she won't be present, I think she'll be taking notes. And
I wouldn't be surprised if she is present for a few games.
If she's allowed. But you didn't hear that from me.
Oh, man. Stephen, that was actually pretty funny.
I'm just saying, who wants that?
You're right.
No, I don't want to go too far on that, but
who wants to hang out with their boss when they're not working for their
Correct.
boss?
Correct. This is the quote-unquote side hustle.
I'd like to think that some of the producers would like to hang out with me occasionally, but maybe I'm being naive.
So comment down
And
below
I like
if
to
you
hang out with Espo.
Yeah. Do you like to hang out with your boss? Because I'm.
I'll start a poll in the chat.
It's up for debate right now. If you do leave, there's gonna be a poll right now. Please give us your answer on whether or not you like hanging out with your boss. I know my answer. I know Stephen's answer. And I would gander. I know most of the WNBA's answer regarding hanging out with Kathy Engelbert.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, though, Stephen, we actually did forget something about free agency.
What was that?
And first of all, we forgot to mention Monique Billings.
That's not free agency. That's more so
I know, but
expansion
I feel like
draft. Yeah. We gotta know.
Okay, you're right. But Monique Billings was taken in the expansion draft by the Golden State Valkyries, and I'll be honest, the closer it got to time for the expansion draft, this was the move that made the most sense.
Yeah.
I think Mo's got a lot of her career left, and she's at a point in her career where she's kind of like Kahleah, where she's not young and she's not old, so she's got a lot of basketball ahead of her, but she still has a lot of room for improvement and growth. And so I think when you are at a point like that in your career and you have an opportunity to go be coached by a coach of that caliber, a team of, we're going to see them get similar investments just like we just saw the Mercury get with Ishbia over the last couple of years. So I think, it's a super exciting opportunity for Mo. I think Mo's going to be super happy in the long run. I think she'll end up getting like a longer contract with this team simply because of these circumstances too. So I think that it's a better situation for Monique. And obviously we'll miss her in the Valley, and Stephen and I were two of her loudest advocates on getting her here in the first place. So
literally from the start of the season.
Literally. Episode 1, go back. But yeah, it just definitely speaks to the value she is, that the Valkyrie saw that value in her, and I do think it still stings that we don't get to see the protected list, and so much of this conversation is nuanced because we don't even know who the Valkyrie were selecting from, and so that makes the conversation a little bit complicated and convoluted in the first place. But I think with doing what we have with the information we have, I think it was a good pick for the Valkyries and doesn't necessarily hurt the Mercury in the long run.
And I like that for everything that Natalie Nakase was speaking to with what she wanted for the roster to match the style of play she desires for the product for the Valkyries to show. Monique is every bit of it, embodying that in terms of her individual identity. So her bringing that to everything that Natalie wants to do is going to be a natural connection. And I feel like there's going to be plenty of minutes for her to play there. I think she's going to be really, really good for them. And I feel like they're going to, if they can handle their business in free agency, I think they can be a team that is going to make a little bit of noise in their inaugural season. And I think it's going to be one that's pivotal for them as they transition past a lot of the one-year contracts happening under the current CBA going into the next deal and everything that's going to come with that.
Well, I think it's such an interesting, situation because they're kind of setting a precedent for another expansion team that's going to come next year. They're kind of laying the foundation. And, if it works for them, it can work for a team next year. Not necessarily that I love the way that Toronto tempo has really gone away about the way they've done a lot of things so far. But, and I literally just saw a merch drop for them yesterday and it was like a stuffed basketball. I'm like, what is this? I'm sorry, but I don't need a stuffed basketball.
Yeah.
Stephen carries around a real basketball. Maybe I'll replace it with a stuffy. But I don't think he'll carry it anymore.
There's no way. I don't need a teddy bear. It's a basketball.
Okay. I didn't know I was going to get him so hard.
Nah, that's not for you. That was for the tempo.
Oh, okay. It is trashy, though, right? And I'm sorry to use that word, but there's no other word for it, right?
They're a little behind.
It's almost like low budget, it's giving, indie film. And I'm like, we've got the Valkyrie over here that's going to literally build a facility this year. And then you've got you up there that acts like you don't even want the basketball team in the first place. I'm really confused.
Yeah, they're very slow right now in their process and feels like they're a little behind, but giving them time and banking on the fact that they'll have an entire country in Canada, excuse me, that's literally backing them. I think it's just going to hit different for them unless Vancouver is able to eventually get in there, which they're trying to do, but we'll see. Stay tuned on that.
Man, I'm giggling at Chris, is your ball flat?
No, my ball is not flat. But Chris don't have a handle, so he wouldn't know what to do with the basketball.
I'm just giggling because I feel like I'm in between, like, full beef between you and Chris right now.
No, Chris just likes attention. I'm not giving him what he wants. That's all.
And then the other thing we also forgot to talk about at the top of the show is, the Phoenix Mercury set some standards. And we just talked about how the Unrivaled is going to move the bar for the WNBA as a whole. But, Mercury, Seattle Storm, the Aces, a lot of these teams have moved the bar for teams and franchises. And, the Indiana Fever, one of the bigger up-and-coming franchises in the league right now, one of the more popular franchises, they are getting a $200 million, I want to say 200,000 square foot practice facility. It's actually going to be the first practice facility built since the Mercury's practice facility that will be bigger than the Mercury's practice facility. So I guess that was kind of a shot at Mr. Ishbia, but at the same time, Ishbia did it faster and better. And I'll just say this. Mr. Ishbia agreed to have it done before All-Star.
Yeah.
He was a man of his word. You know who hosts All-Star this year, right?
Yeah.
Indiana. So all I'm saying is if it ain't done,
it ain't Ishbia though.
I'm gonna be talking mad crap.
It's not Matt. I don't know if other owners had the same motion that Matt does. That's he's built different.
All I've heard today is motion.
I don't know if I've ever heard somebody describe an NBA owner to have motion. Does Matt Ishbia really have motion?
Well, I mean, look what he did.
Got money
that man expedited the practice facility by a whole calendar year and brought in Kevin Durant the same day he got introduced to the franchise he's on. I would say that's motion.
I guess it just depends on what your definition for motion is.
Well, listen, you're talking to me. You should not Eric. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that.
Oh man, and now I feel like I'm in private Suns beef now on accident.
Ain't no private Suns beef. Anybody that's been watching
public.
the Suns,
it's been very
public
beef. I'm beefless over here. Call me a vegan, please. Espo's in our chat though. The training facility is so gorgeous, one of the best I've ever been in. He's not wrong. It really is top of the line, and you look at it compared to, this is no shot of Vegas because they were really like such, examples, lead trendsetters in this situation. But at the end of the day, like the way that the Mercury did it is just simply better than everybody else.
Yeah, it's different when you open it up during All-Star weekend, but also in tandem with the Olympics.
But yeah, you've got the Olympic team training there.
It's different.
It's real.
It's different.
And, my good friend Matthew in the comment, I don't see the Fever with the DT GOAT practice court. So, and I don't see that that's even a possibility for them. So I don't know how their practice courts could even measure up. Espo, I think you've missed part of the conversation because we all said that we love hanging out with our boss. We love it. But yeah, so lots of bars being raised all around the WNBA.
The poll ended 71% said no.
Yes! I'm one with the majority here. 71% of you do not like hanging out with your boss. I would agree.
You're 50-50 though, because Espo.
I don't want to get in trouble. I love lying and I love hanging out with my boss is plural.
I think Espo makes a great point though, because the Fever practice facility is still in Indiana at the end of the day.
You know what? That's a really solid point, Espo.
Very, very, very relevant.
I saw that she was at the Indiana G League game yesterday, and
Who was that?
Caitlin. And I do apologize for not knowing what their G League team is called.
Ants.
But it just looked so lackluster. I'm like, that looks so boring compared to what we've got going on with the Valley Suns. Like, oh, please watch yourself. Espo, while you're here, though, what do you think about changing the company name for one short week? Please let us know down in the comments.
It would be being changed to SATOU.
It just temporary. We can put it under the flag, though. I think it would look really nice.
Just for 1 week, get Satou in the studio.
Ooh.
Help the Mercury court her in a sense.
We need all hands on deck.
Yeah.
This is a citywide project. If I'm DMing Matt Ishbia, then you guys all have to be involved as well. I didn't send Matt Ishbia TikTok for nothing, oh, for your show 1 week we can. Espa, I think you're kind of missing the point of this whole thing here is like it has to be we're going big, not home, you know? And so, you know, SATOU podcast sounds pretty cool, you know? So I think just get behind it. And if you don't, we're going to leave you behind.
And if you don't, we don't like hanging out with you.
Yeah, exactly. Shane is right. This is why we don't like hanging out with you.
Whoa. No, I said if he doesn't, then we don't. Because currently, right now, my position is I like hanging out with us.
That's a crazy misquote.
Man,
Literally a half a second after he just said it to you. That's wild.
And that's why we don't like hanging out with you, Espo.
Well, he already said basically no. If you're not saying yes, I'm going to take that as a no. Satou it is. That's what I'm talking about, Espo.
Let's go.
Absolutely.
Let's
Frick
go.
yeah. I love it here. I'm never leaving. Oh, man. Okay. Well, I kind of skewed us off track a little bit talking about Unrivaled. So we will go back to talking about Unrivaled. I'm going to pull up the schedule really quick just so we can both take a look. I know the Roses plays tonight.
Yep.
At 7 p.m. Our time, I'm pretty sure. And I'm pretty sure the Roses take on.
Are you playing a vinyl? If I'm not mistaken.
I think you are correct. Look at you, yeah. So at 5 p.m. our time, the Mist and the Owls will play each other, and then at 6 p.m. our time, the Rose and the Vinyl. And all of these games, good news for us, it will be on TNT tonight. None of us will have to spend a lot of time tracking things down via the Pac-12 network, ESPN Plus, SEC Network Plus. Basically, I could go on and on about all the networks I really hate right now. So shout out to TNT for this.
You also have to worry about local blackouts on the League Pass
Wait,
app.
you don't have to?
You don't
Oh,
have
thank God. And the other shout to AU, I know we're not talking about that league right now, but all their games going to be on the WNBA app, which is super cool. And y'all already know my young GOAT, Jalen Sherrod, is over on AU, so you already know where my loyalties are going to lie this year. And Espo, as soon as I find out where to get the Phantom jersey, I will let everyone else know where to get the Phantom jersey because I am patient. As you can see, I'm wearing my Phantom Soon jersey. And yes, Kevo, we are back. And what's on Max Lindsay? I'm a little confused as to what you're talking about. But yeah, TNT and True TV for all of these Unrivaled games. And you can see the other two Mercury members, Natasha Cloud and BG, play in their first game tomorrow at noon our time. So lucky for all of you college basketball fans, they give us plenty of time in between all these games. So we can watch everything is what I'm telling you. So I want to give them first a huge shout out because if the WNBA had scheduled this exact same schedule of games, they would have scheduled them all at 5 p.m. today, all 4 of the first games. Which isn't possible because there's only 6 teams. So they would have scheduled 8 teams to play at 5 p.m. today.
Definitely.
So huge shout to Unrivaled for actually doing the scheduling in a way that you can actually watch all the games and it makes sense. And since these games are only going to be an hour long, you don't have to dedicate like a huge portion of your day to watching these games. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun watch. I think it's going to be a fun atmosphere and the entertainment value is going to be extremely high.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to see what the crowd looks like in their first little situation today. Erika versus Math, huge rivalry. Yeah, Territorial Cup, who? But yeah, you know, was talking to you before we started the show about how Nafisa's husband and CEO of the Unrivaled was talking about how much of this is going to change right in front of our eyes as the league kind of progresses. And I think, you know, watching crowd today, day one, and watching crowd on that final day is going to be really, really different. But before we go, Stephen, I do have a question for you.
What's up?
There's a one-on-one battle at the end of all this. You know, there's going to be one player crowned at the end of this. And I personally have a player that I believe is just destined for glory at the end of all of this. And I'm curious to know if you feel the same way about that player and if you feel as though she is also destined for glory and to be the one-on-one champion.
Who is that?
Kahleah Copper.
Yeah, I will never bet against Kahleah Copper.
I'm calling my shot early.
I'll never bet against Kahleah. But I do feel like in the context of ones, the best one-on-one player in the W, if we're not talking Asia Wilson, who is not involved with our rival this season, is Erika Ogunbowale.
Well,
I'm not saying that Kyle's going to lose. I'm just saying if anybody's going to be in her way, it's going to be Erika.
I think Ka is thinking about those 38-point games at the beginning of the season, and she knows that MVP was right there for her if she had, and not that she necessarily did anything wrong toward the end of the season to take that opportunity away from her, but we talked about it so profusely. Like when you're playing versus A'ja Wilson, the MVP almost becomes a non-question to everybody else. Like you just know where it's going to go, and so I think if I'm Kahleah right now, I'm seeing this as a massive opportunity to win an MVP on my own accord and not have to compete against literally the best player in the world.
For sure. And one of the big things for me with Kahleah that I'm looking forward to in all of Unrivaled is her continued playmaking growth and development. Something that she's been intentional about speaking to. And I had a chance to talk with her right after the All-Star break in Chicago about that. And now here's the clip. Nate always talks about you and Natasha specifically getting your feet muddy in the paint and your downhill process. He mentioned that you wanted to continue to evolve in the drive and kick game and that you had some conversation with some NBA players about that particular context. Can you just kind of speak to your growth and evolution there and maybe who you spoke to kind of get guidance from?
I just think that that's the next part of my game. You know, I think me and Nate has had many conversations about me being a playmaker. I think that's important because as I continue to grow, it's just gonna get harder. Teams are, scouting and everything. So if I'm able to be a better passer, to find my teammates when they're open, that'll alleviate the pressure off of me also. So those are just conversations I've had, and just like being at the Olympics and being with the guys, we were just talking about like matchups and like different how people play, and talk about LeBron specifically, how he's just incredible. And it's a very tough cover. One, you can't guard him one-on-one, and then you're bringing help, and he's finding shooters, and he's just prolific. That's my goal. But so yeah, that's who I like when I'm.
Yeah, so Kahleah being able to play and make and really focus on it with two less bodies on the court is going to help to expedite the processing speed for her. And I feel like that's something that's going to take her to another level coming back into the W and really just help her add another layer to her game and be able to lean more into that as teams try to stop her from scoring the basketball.
Well, and I mean, we saw it happen in real time, her move to the top of the scout for the Mercury last year.
Yep.
I mean, she moved from, I would say, second or third to right up to the top without question all season long. And so when you're at the top of the scout, you have to be able to facilitate, because when you're getting doubled, you can't get around, this side or the other, you're going to have to be able to get out to somebody who can and who can score. And, so I think, like you said, it's really important that Kahleah is ready to do exactly that and come into that role for herself. As she's gotten more and more prolific with her scoring, it's become almost more difficult for her to get those shots that she's comfortable getting. So she needs to be able to facilitate so she can play off the ball a little more.
And I feel like that layer is going to be important for the Mercury to get to winning yet another WNBA championship next season. Her playmaking has to be at a certain level. I think she gets there. And depending on what they can do on the margins in free agency, that'll help with it. But Kahleah is going to be steering the wheel for this Mercury team going into the future.
I agree. I think, I said it a little bit earlier, like, I don't think Kahleah is the most vocal leader of the team, but she is the end-all, be-all. And they're building the team around Kahleah, and I think as they should. She is one of the most versatile player on our team and one of the most versatile players in the league, and we should be capitalizing on her, period. And so, Amanda, we would like Allisha Gray just as much as the rest of y'all. Okay?
Big Al is she's her in so many different respects.
She's welcome in the Valley anytime she wants.
Definitely.
Though, okay. I'm not going to say we can change the company name again, but I think we've arranged that for one person today, and I think I'm going to have to hear about that. So, but anyways, is there anything else that we are forgetting to get to today? It's been such a long time since we've been in front of this camera that I'm like scared that we've forgotten something.
Yeah, last quick thing, Natasha Cloud and Brittney Griner been on the same team, being able to continue to evolve in their pick and roll chemistry, and I think that they're probably the best pick and roll duo in all of Unrivaled basketball for the inaugural season. Them taking that and taking the baton from everything they're doing 3-on-3, applying it to 5-on-5.
I'm going to say this. I think Espo says we can change it to gray. Jeez. Oh, man. I think we're going to see a faster BG come back from Miami. I think BG is going to be more cardiac. Yeah, you get it. Yeah. I'm not an English professor here.
She's going to be in better shape.
Exactly. You don't even want to know what I was about to say. It was not a word. I made up a word at the beginning of the show, and now I'm just trying to make sure I make up one to take us out, too. You know?
I'll leave us with one last thought. What if Brittney Griner just goes out and wins the one-on-one competition?
Listen, I mean, it's possible. We saw her in the skills contest last year.
Who's stopping her when she has the ball in her hand? I'm just throwing that out there.
I'm excited because I just feel like there's not this like unfair advantage for bigs because of the free throw system and everything that they have set in place. So I think it's going to be really exciting to watch this league and just how it grows over the next 6 to 8 weeks.
Yep.
Obviously, you can count on us to be tapped in, letting you know what's going on, and keep you posted on the happenings in Unrivaled, around Unrivaled, and the WNBA and the Phoenix Mercury. So you can tap in with Stephen on his Twitter account, which actually I don't know what it is anymore, so I'll have to tell you what it is.
Stephen PG3. Stephen with the PH.
And then you can follow us both over on PHNX_Mercury, where we give you, like I said, all the happenings on the recent news on the WNBA, Unrivaled. Sometimes we even tap in a little bit with the overseas balls. Just depends on what day it is, you know what I mean? But you can follow me on Twitter at Erika Lee Day, and that's Erika with a K. And sure, why not? Follow Chris too. He'll leave his username down below.
No, don't follow Chris.
And we'll all just reconvene. I couldn't tell you what next time, but we don't know when the next time will be. So see you soon.
We all silly like the mayor.